political analyst, is still here with me. So let's talk about the history of, the Saba Saba. Do you think the Azimio, the opposition, are riding on the spirit of Saba Saba for this? Does it give the protest more weight?
I'm actually very grateful that I was invited on this show on this particular day, because Saba Saba has a very special space on our history as a country, the political history and generally the history of the country. Saba Saba was very fundamental, particularly in the fact that we had a country that was being run on some form of dictatorship. We had the Kanu government, we had Moi, and it took a lot of effort for Kenya to be what it is today. And credit goes to some members of the opposition as well that took part in this protest and took part in this agitation. But political agitation does not border on political violence. Political agitation remains agitation. You could even go on political agitation right from where we are right now, and your voice will be heard and change will happen. It doesn't have to be violent for it to be heard. Kenya has a history of real violent protests that we need to be very cautious whenever we engage in any form of demonstrations. But also with that in mind, I'm very concerned about the kind of thinking within the Azimio ranks or the opposition ranks. This is an idea that was conceived 30 years ago. And 30 years ago, if we are going to use the same idea to advance political interests or political agitation, then that paints the picture that there's very little touch of innovation or innovative thinking in how strategies are developed within the file and rank of the opposition. So it is important that we can take advantage, or the opposition can take advantage of the young people within their file and rank, the intellectuals around there, to come up with ideas that are more practicable within the setup that we find ourselves. When you talk about disrupting businesses to achieve a political end goal or to gain political capital, political science then would direct you that you'll be losing support from the very people who you intend to get support from. When you come to Gikomba and disrupt businesses of people who are not intending to join your protest, it becomes printed on their minds and hearts that the person who disrupted my daily income on that particular day is the opposition. So politically speaking, or on the basis of political analysis, it might not be a very good idea to keep reverting to political protests whenever your negotiations have not worked. And I think there are better avenues through which political agitation can be done. We could have a cocktail of the codes and demonstrations and picketing protests here and there. So many other avenues that can be used to achieve whatever political capital that the opposition is attempting to achieve. But I also wonder the very big contradiction between what the opposition claims to be fighting for and what they are achieving through this protest. On the one hand, the opposition claims that they want to fight for people to get more money in their pockets. The state of the economy is in a mess. On the other hand, the same opposition is advancing, this level of anxiety in the country. Businesses cannot be done. And in some places where businesses are happening, everybody is closing shop because they're not sure whether the protesters are going to invade your shop and loot. So there's a big contradiction and irony that I think they should come out very boldly, call out those who are rogue within their protests, demand that they have the security, of the party security, I want to believe, that is supposed to take care of, such instances and ensure that protests are done accordingly. It paints a very bad picture of what Saba Saba was originally conceived as. Saba Saba, even then, while at the instances there was violence here and there because the government then was very aggressive, in the end it achieved its goal by ensuring that everybody got to do what was right. The church was involved, the women groups were involved, the youth groups were involved, the political class played a role because of course they're the political class, but there was a lot of agitation from all quarters. Even those who had not engaged in politics, they felt there was something very important that needed to be addressed.
So then let me ask you, let me just cut you short, and sorry for that. You're talking about the issue of other, stakeholders players, apart from, the politicians. Class, Let's just take a look at the Finance Act 2023. We saw Kenyans saying that, you know what, this is too much. We saw clerics come out and say this is too much. We saw civil society groups come out and say this is too much. Were we heard? Were Kenyans heard? No. How did we get to this particular point? Even with the opposition, didn't they You know,
I like that. I like the fact that, you know, for the very first time, I think even about a border person knows that there's something called finance bill in Kenya. Because initially we've had, you know, this bill and, you know, the budget is read and things are happening. Nobody knows. People just know that the finance minister then and the cabinet secretary now would go to parliament and read the budget and things are moving. But for the first time, there was real conversation, even at the most basic places, you know, in the small bars out there, in the, what do you call them, the nyumba kumis and, you know, the garages down there. People were having a conversation about the state of the economy. And for me, that was
results.
Yeah, and for me, that was more important, the fact that everybody was aware of what was going on and people were discussing this. Now, as to whether the government listened to the people or not, it is important that a government listens to the people. It is necessary that the government puts into consideration what views the people have. And that is why we have the Constitution that provides for a whole, provision on public participation. And if public participation is not adhered to accordingly, you'll be shocked that the courts will literally put aside whatever you were doing. So it is important that the government listens. And to me, the extent to which the government has listened is the fact that everybody can interpret the law in the manner they wish. You could interpret the law the way you wish because we can read the law, all of us. Mm-hmm. But there are people and the institutions, particularly in the judiciary, that are charged with the responsibility to interpret the law, and that becomes authority. Now, everybody who felt that they had a problem with the finance bill went to court. Okay, Mtata was there, so many other people, and went to court. And they were listened to. And the court made a determination on this matter. And I like it that once the court made a determination on this matter, the government, as powerful as we may believe it is, has only one option, provided for by the law, to go to a superior court for redress. And they have done exactly that. So that is the trajectory Kenya should take. That whenever you feel that your grievances are not being attended to in the manner you would have wanted them to be attended to, there's a place of redress, and that is in the courts of law. But most of the times, particularly advanced by the opposition, is that whenever things don't work in their favor, then that institution becomes bad. We start slinging mud on that institution, and we think that that institution has been bribed. When the Supreme Court gave a determination on the last election, while some people did not agree with it, it is not right to keep on slinging mud and making everybody feel that it is not a credible space. And now when the same institution, which is the judiciary, has dismissed President Ruto on the CASs and has dismissed President Ruto on the finance bill, then they are doing the right thing. I think shifting goalposts is not the right thing. We need to be objective at every instance, and whenever we feel that the courts are not doing the right thing, there are proper mechanisms provided for by the law in which these persons can get redressed.
So then, let me ask you, so then do you think we have achieved the freedom that we fought for in 1990 on such a day?
Now, freedom is very gradual and freedom is very relative. Somebody would say they want freedom to kill the others, or they want freedom to do things that are not correct within the eyes of the law. What is freedom is what is defined by the Constitution. For instance, we are saying that there's freedom and you have a right to protest. I think that is what should be protected, and that's why we're demanding that the police protects the protestants, the protesters.
Yeah.
And equally, that the law provides that your right, which are defined, there are rights that are defined as to be inalienable, there are rights that are defined in other terms. I mean, the Constitution that Kenya has is a very superior constitution that talks about every little aspect of how a human being should live and how the citizens of Kenya should be protected. Okay. And therefore, so far, so good. Our freedom has been achieved to a level. But there are some spaces where we need to advance better. We need to get better. And that's why we have the law, we have the judges, we have the judiciary that are supposed to help us advance this.
All right, we're out of time. Thank you so much, Ascon Kamili, who is a political analyst. Thank you so much for making time and for your contribution. Great. Of course, the KTN News team continues monitoring the events that are taking place countrywide. We saw what happened in Mombasa. The protesters were dispersed by the police after they actually, they told them that they will be having peaceful protests. But even after that, we saw them, we saw the police disperse the protesters after the politicians joined them. Equally in Kisumu, things are calm as of now. There's heightened security in Nyeri. Not much was happening as of the time we were speaking to Clement Masoma, but of course he's doing rounds and we'll keep you updated. And here in Nairobi, security is